CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. We begin this evening in the southern interior of the province, where a father and son have been charged in the brutal murder of an 18-year-old girl in Armstrong last Halloween. She was killed along railway tracks in Armstrong. Taylor Van Diest attacked and beaten, found Halloween night. RCMP say 26-year-old Matthew Forster is now charged with second-degree murder, and his 58-year-old father, Stephen Forster, is accused of obstruction of justice and being an accessory to murder.
We would like to hear from anyone who has not already spoken to investigators that now, with the release of today's information on his arrest, may have information about any contact they had with him on Halloween night 2011.
RCMP say Matthew Forster also is facing charges including sexual assault and unlawful confinement after an attack in Kelowna in 2005. He's also facing charges in a home invasion in which a 19-year-old woman was assaulted in the town of Cherryville, BC. Police say they were able to link DNA found on the body of Van Diest to DNA in the previous sexual assaults. The BC Teachers Federation has gone before the Labour Relations Board for a formal application to remove the mediator in the dispute that has been appointed by the province. The BCTF wants Charles Jago replaced because it says he is biased in favour of the employer and says the whole process is flawed. Earlier this week, Union President Susan Lambert wrote to Jago urging him to step down. Lambert says Jago helped to draft Bill 22, the back-to-work legislation. He won't step aside, so the BCTF has gone to the LRB to overturn his appointment.
It's an absolutely imbalanced and unfair process that is now legislated upon us in Bill 22, and the appointment of this mediator further confirms our fears that there is a predetermined outcome.
Jago was appointed after the Clark government imposed legislation to end the teachers' job action in a dispute that has gone on since that job action began at the beginning of the school year last September. The U.S. Coast Guard has fired on the Japanese ghost ship adrift off Haida Gwaii. The ship is said to be on fire tonight and listing, but has not gone under yet. The mission almost didn't go down, though. A Canadian fish boat put in a last-minute salvage claim on the vessel this morning. The decision came late this afternoon to scuttle the ship as a safety precaution. The unmanned ship drifted across the Pacific after last year's Japanese tsunami. The U.S. Coast Guard opened fire on the boat late this afternoon. It is not clear yet how much, if any, fuel was still on board the boat, but U.S. officials say any leftover fuel should dissipate as it leaks out of the sunken hull. The Coast Guard says sinking the boat was safer than allowing it to continue to drift in the path of other vessels. Nearly 2 years after the Tamil migrant ship MV Sunsea was brought ashore at CFB Esquimalt, a man accused of organizing the ship's passage has been arrested in France. Thayakaran Marakardu was accused in an indictment filed in a BC court last month. He's now in custody in France, and extradition proceedings have been launched to bring him to Canada. 500 Tamil men, women and children were on board the MV Sunsea when it sailed into Canadian waters in August 2010. Well, Victoria Harbour Ferry is floating a new plan right now to replace a commuter ferry service that is going to go under very soon. The Blue Boat passenger ferry shuttles Department of National Defence staff between the Colwood Dockyard and CFB Esquimalt, but the service will be cut at the end of this month. Victoria Harbour Ferry Limited, which operates these vessels, is in talks right now with DND, hoping to replace the service and plans to have an announcement soon. The plan is to have a new ferry service up and running May 1st. It will not be the little pickle boats that operate in the inner harbour. The company says it has a 40-passenger vessel ready to use immediately, and it plans to have a second boat ready for service across Esquimalt Harbour sometime early next month. Well, you pay before you pump. Now you could be paying before you go for a ride in a taxi. Cab drivers say they are tired of being stiffed on fares, and they want to start collecting deposits in advance. A Bluebird cab driver says it happens all the time. People walk away without paying, often because his debit machine loses its signal in remote areas.
And sometimes people are going out of town, like a Sioux, Malahide, Duncan sometimes, and their credit card or debit card doesn't work over there because it's so far away. But it hurts when it's a $20, $30, $40, sometimes $100 fare, and somebody don't pay. Then it really hurts.
The The province developed a law for Metro Vancouver cabs in 2007. In that city, taxi drivers can refuse to drive a passenger until a deposit has been paid up front. On tomorrow's Good Friday, it means that thousands of people are on the move and already on their way for this Easter long weekend. Police are urging you to use your head while you're driving, slow down, plan your route, and put down those handheld devices behind the wheel. Vic PD will be out keeping a close eye on drivers around the capital region this holiday weekend. And for Victoria Police, the weekend began today. Officers are already setting up a speed trap, several of them in fact, and ticketing speeders. Police say drivers need to be mindful of each other this holiday weekend.
We'll be out doing our normal traffic enforcement, and obviously I'm not going to give away any surprises, but it's a weekend where people will be going out and enjoying themselves, and we're not out there to spoil it for people, but we will be doing roadblocks and other such enforcement tactics over the weekend. It may sound a bit of a contradiction to prepare for a surprise, but if you actually think about the potential of the hazards that may exist, then those surprises will not be surprises at all.
Not just Vic PD, all over the region, police say they'll be setting up check stops around Greater Victoria. And if you think you see an impaired driver on the road this holiday weekend, as you always should, call police immediately. BC Ferries is laying on more than 50 extra sailings to keep up with all of the extra weekend traffic. It has added 40 more crossings from Tsawwassen to Swartz Bay and 10 more sailings from Horseshoe Bay to Departure Bay. Those additional sailings began running today, and they will until Monday. BC Ferries suggests making a reservation if you want to catch a particular sailing this Easter weekend. Well, the snow may be falling in Alberta, as Astrid showed us, but it is love in the air, not snowflakes, at Beacon Hill Park in Victoria. The amazing blue herons are flocking to the capital region. You can see these majestic big birds hanging around Goodacre Lake in Beacon Hill Park with their bedazzling gray-blue feathers and their distinctive yellow beaks. This morning there was a rook of herons gathering sticks and building material to make their nests in the tall trees. They will be there for a while. The blue herons lay their eggs in April or May each year. Well, a group of Vancouver Islanders is putting the fun back in Fundraiser, but this is no laughing matter. It's a 24-hour hockey tournament to try to help save a young girl's life. It's the Suba Gill $5,000 fundraiser, and it's happening at the Island Centre for Excellence in Colwood tomorrow and Saturday. Suba was diagnosed when she was 19 with a rare form of bone cancer called Ewing sarcoma. The UVic student is now 20 and is in a fight for her life. She did not respond to chemotherapy, and now her family is struggling to cover the costs of traveling to the mainland for treatment. Her mother had to quit her job to take care of her, and the bills are piling up.
First dose of chemo didn't work for her, so we're going to have to try different experimental drugs and experimental types of procedures, and those aren't covered by government.
We found out exactly what the story was, and we said, well, we need to help you guys out. So it's been a battle for them, and financially and, as you can imagine, emotionally. So yeah, we just want to do what we can.
And that's where you come in, lacing up your skates in a 3-on-3 hockey battle to help Suba fight her cancer. The games start at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at the Ice Centre in Colwood, and they'll go till midnight. There'll be a breakfast at 8 Saturday morning, a silent auction at 11:30. If you'd like to find out how you can take part, more information, go to the Suba Gill $5,000 fundraiser page on Facebook. Well, for some, it's time to plan those Easter egg hunts and your weekend getaways. But for one fourth grader from Willows Elementary in Oak Bay, this is time to practice chess. 9-year-old Matthew Ging is taking a break from homework and is working on his game, getting ready to compete in tomorrow's junior provincial tournament in Victoria. Now, Matthew is no stranger to the high-stakes world of kings and queens and pawns. He took second place at the provincial chess championships for the past 3 years and hopes this year it'll be his checkmate.
It was very clear right from the beginning that he was an exceptional player. I had him a game, and he would move and he would tell me, I have 3 or 4 things I could do, and what would happen with each one.
When my dad signed me up to the chess, I was like, hey, this is fun, so I want to do more, and that's why I started playing.
185 kids and teens from around the province will battle it out at Victoria's Grand Pacific Hotel, and winners compete in the Nationals in Halifax next month. A $2.5 million shortfall will mean program cuts and staff layoffs at Camosun College, and it will mean the end of the Applied Communication program. The two-year program, which trains students for careers in broadcasting, journalism, public relations, and other fields, will be eliminated after next year. Staff at ACP got the word this weekend. The campus radio station Village 900 that went off the air just a few weeks ago will no longer broadcast on the internet either. Graduates of ACP work in the broadcast industry in Victoria and across the country, including several staff here at CTV News and at CFAX 1070. Camosun is not saying where other cuts may come. It needs to eliminate at least 40 jobs to balance this year's budget of $104 million. Last month's national unemployment numbers show some real improvement, but that didn't make its way across the Rockies to British Columbia. There was no change in the capital region, 5.3% last month. Vancouver's unemployment was down ever so slightly. BC is the only western province that lost jobs in March. The jobless numbers up a tick to an even 7%. Nationally, the rate fell to 7.2%. Well, it turns out, speaking of long weekends, that everybody does really love a parade. Organizers of the annual Island Farms Victoria Day Parade say they have now finally reached their target for entrance. Today was the deadline for people who wanted to take part in the annual march down Douglas Street in May. Earlier this week, CTV News told you that organizers still had room for about 40 more entries in the procession, and they were concerned as recently as Tuesday that they were going to reach the number that they wanted. They were way down. Last year, the parade had 142 entrants, marching bands, floats, and others. They expect to have about the same this year. RCMP and the NAM will have a public warning out tonight after two reports of teenage girls being approached by older men with sexual intent. The first incident happened at the Woodgrove Centre. A man sat on a bench near a teenage girl and asked her if she wanted to make a pornographic movie. She said no and walked away. He was about 5'9", possibly Middle Eastern. Another girl reported being approached walking down the street by a man who asked if she'd like to smoke some pot with him. She said no, but later met up with him so he could buy her some cigarettes. Police say it's important for children and for teens to know what to do if an older person approaches them and how to get out of a situation safely. Also in Campbell River, a group of children has learned the hard way what happens when you play with fire. The 4 kids accidentally ignited a fire in a Campbell River townhouse last night. They had been playing with a lighter and some flammable liquid and ended up setting the bed on fire. They tried to put it out. They couldn't. They left the home safely. They all got out and they called 911. Firefighters were able to extinguish the flames, but the home sustained significant damage. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Sean Atleo is nearing the end of his 3-year term, but he says there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to improve the lives of First Nations people on Vancouver Island and across Canada. He won't say yet if he will be the person to lead that charge. The election of the AFN is just a few months away. Asked if he'll run, Atleo says there's a process to follow when making intentions known, and he says candidates will do that in early June. Atleo says the focus instead needs to be on improving outcomes for First Nations young people and that youth remain his #1 priority.
The aspiration is that every single child in Canada will be able to get up in the morning, know that they've got a school to go to, where they learn their language, where they're going to be cared and loved. And I know that I share with all of the leaders, all of First Nations leaders from coast to coast to coast, that ambition. And we will be unrelenting in pressing, particularly for governments, to stand up and accept their obligation to support First Nations as well.
Atleo was elected National Chief in 2009. He's an hereditary chief of the House at First Nation on the west coast of Vancouver Island.